the grand scheme of history, wars have been fought for all sorts of reasons: power, land, religion, and even love. But every once in a while, there comes a conflict so oddly named that it makes one stop and think, wait, they waged a war over what? And thus, dear reader, we journey into the curious case of the War of Jenkins Ear. Let's rewind to the early 18th century. European powers were neck-deep in colonial ambitions. Fighting to assert dominance over the New World, Spain and Britain, two of the heaviest hitters of the high seas, were no strangers to such squabbles. Now, by the Treaty of Seville in 1729, the British had limited trading rights in the Spanish colonies, but this was grudgingly given and often violated. The Spanish coast guards patrolled vigorously, searching British ships for contraband and ensuring they weren't sneaking more goods than allowed. Sometimes these searches were thorough, other times they were excessively thorough. Robert Jenkins was a British merchant captain, peacefully going about his business when in 1731 his ship was boarded by the Spanish Coast Guard. What happened next varies by account, but the most dramatic version is that the Spanish, as a warning to other would-be smugglers, sliced off Jenkins' ear. To add insult to injury, they allegedly told him to take his ear to King George II with the sneering message, "If he dares, let him do the same to us." Jenkins, understandably distressed, preserved his severed ear in a jar of rum. Because when life gives you severed ears, make ear rum, of course, and eventually made his way back to Britain. Now, it wasn't like Britain and Spain immediately declared war over the ear incident. In fact, 7 years passed before anything explosive occurred, but Jenkins' ear became the emblematic of Spanish brutality and the violation of British rights. In 1738, Jenkins was called before Parliament. He presented his ear, or what was left of it, and regaled them with the tale of its aggressive amputation. The British, never once to take a slight lightly, were outraged. Tensions escalated, fueled by other geopolitical factors and trade disputes, and by 1739, the War of Jenkins' Ear had officially begun. Much of the war was fought at sea, fittingly, with naval battles raging in the Caribbean. There was also action in South America, notably the disastrous British attempt to capture the Cartagena de Indias in the modern-day Colombia in 1741. The siege saw more British soldiers dying from disease than combat, and the mission ended in a retreat. In a way, Jenkins' Ear echoed across multiple battles and theaters of war, from tropical islands to the coast of Florida and Georgia, though often overshadowed by larger conflicts like the War of Austrian Succession, which it merged into. The war was bloody and brutal. The conflict, having dragged on with neither side achieving a decisive victory, eventually ended in 1748 with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Though the treaty settled larger European disputes, many of the Caribbean issues remained unsolved. As for Jenkins, history isn't clear on his fate post-ear presentation, but his legacy, or at least that of his ear, was firmly cemented. The War of Jenkins' Ear, though its quirky little silly name, had significant ramifications. It set the stage for the broader imperial struggles between Britain and Spain and paved the way for British dominance and Spanish decline that would be defining the coming centuries.